to this week's Money Metals podcast, helping gold and silver investors during these turbulent times. Now, this week's market wrap with commentary and analysis from Money Metals Exchange, the company named Best Overall Precious Metals Dealer by Investopedia.
Welcome to this week's Market Wrap podcast. I'm Mike Leeson. As more cracks in the foundation of the banking system appear, gold prices have once again been knocking on the door of new records, although we're seeing a pullback here on Friday. On Thursday, gold rallied up to $2,060 an ounce, nearly reaching its former all-time high. As of this Friday recording, the monetary metal is giving back a chunk of this week's gains, but still comes in at $2,027 and is holding on to a 1.3% gain so far this week. Turning to the white metals, silver has also pulled back here today and shows a weekly gain now of just 2.3%, bringing spot prices to $25.89 per ounce. Platinum, which was already lagging this week, is off 2.2% to trade at $1,073. And finally, palladium is down 1.7% on the week to trade at $1,537 per ounce. Industrial metals, along with other commodities, slipped this week on banking and recession fears. Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell attempted to reassure Americans that the banking system is sound, even as he announced another rate hike that will add further stresses on credit markets. Powell also insisted that he thinks it's likely the economy will avoid a recession in spite of the gathering warning signs.
Let me comment briefly on recent developments in the banking sector. Conditions in that sector have broadly improved since early March, and the U.S. banking system is sound and resilient. I'll just say I continue to think that it's possible that this time is really different. And the reason is there's just so much excess demand, really, in the labor market. You know, the case of avoiding a recession is, in my view, more likely than that of having a recession. But it's not that the case of having a recession is, I don't rule that out either. It's possible that we will have what I hope would be a mild recession.
Powell's retort that, quote, this time is different and the banking system could prove to be just as sound and resilient in 2023 as inflation was transitory in 2022. In other words, the banking system is increasingly exposing itself as unsound and fragile. No amount of rosy Fed speak should give depositors confidence that their savings are secure. Only a few minutes after Powell floated his claim that the banking system is sound and resilient, regional bank stocks got slammed down hard on the news that PacWest Bank was in a panic to find a buyer or obtain a capital injection. Concerns continue to rise that many, if not most, medium-sized banks may be insolvent as a result of losses from their foolish investments in government bonds. Even if deposits are covered by insurance and teetering banks are rescued, bailouts won't bring soundness back to the banking system. The cost of unsound financial practices will ultimately be absorbed by the taxpayers and all holders of depreciating Federal Reserve note dollars. Unfortunately, the federal government's finances are anything but sound. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen warned this week that the United States could default on its debt as soon as next month. However, many observers doubt the government would actually default even if its nation's credit limit isn't raised by Congress. The administration is pursuing emergency workarounds behind the scenes. One of the bureaucratic maneuvers being discussed once again is the issuance of trillion-dollar platinum coins. One of the leading advocates of this ploy is Rohan Gray, a professor at Willamette University College of Law. In 2020, he worked with far-left Congresswoman Rashida Tlaib to advocate trillion-dollar coins as a backdoor way to implement modern monetary theory and enable the government to ramp up stimulus spending. Under the scheme, the Treasury Department would use its authority to mint platinum coins at any denomination and arbitrarily stamp a $1 trillion face value on them. It would then deposit the coins at the Federal Reserve and tap them for their official fiat cash value. There are other debt financing gimmicks in the works, including having the Fed act as the government's fiscal agent in buying defaulted Treasury securities, essentially mopping up the mess created by any technical default and enabling the government to pay its bills. Fed Chairman Powell has refused to say publicly whether the central bank would take on such a role, but it's difficult to imagine a scenario where it would refuse to do so if the Biden administration declared it would move forward on such a debt ceiling workaround. In an exchange with then Fed Chairman Ben Bernanke and other Fed officials back in 2013, Powell makes it clear that he would monetize the government debt. Central bankers had specifically discussed the possibility of buying defaulted treasuries in response to any failure by Congress to raise the debt ceiling. They came to the conclusion that yes, they would have to do so in order to save Uncle Sam from supposed financial Armageddon. Former Federal Reserve Chairman Alan Greenspan also said that the government will never default under our monetary system because the Fed can always print the currency needed to avert that kind of catastrophe. Of course, if Janet Yellen and Jerome Powell come out and said bluntly that the central bank will monetize the debt no matter what, that would likely trigger a steep drop in the value of the U.S. dollar, something they obviously would like to avoid. Whether the Federal Reserve notes purchasing power crashes suddenly or continues to decline more gradually, it has nowhere to go but down. And as investors perceive rising risks in the banking system and stock market, they may find precious metals to be increasingly attractive as safe havens. And that, in fact, is exactly what's happening. At Money Metals, we continue to see record buying and a massive influx of first-timers. The twin threats of currency debasement and bank failures are driving the situationally aware toward alternative forms of savings like physical gold and silver. Well, that will do it for this week. Be sure to check back next Friday for our next weekly Market Wrap podcast. Until then, this has been Mike Leeson with Money Metals Exchange. Thanks for listening, and have a wonderful weekend, everybody.
Thank you for joining us for this week's Money Metals podcast. Be sure to come back next week. And don't forget to subscribe to our podcast through iTunes. For answers to all of your questions, or to discreetly and securely buy or sell gold or silver coins, bars, and rounds, call 1-800-800-1865 or visit www.moneymetals.com. Our knowledgeable and no-pressure specialists are standing by to answer your call during business hours, Monday through Saturday. Or you can lock in your order online, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Again, visit us at www.moneymetals.com or call 1-800-800-1865.